Right. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Miami Foundation's Our Miami, the People's Forum, focused on County Commission District 3. If you can, please give us just a moment to allow for all of our registrants to join us. Thank you for your patience. We're looking forward to getting started. Thank you again for joining us, and to kick us off this evening, please welcome me in introducing the Miami Foundation President and CEO, Rebecca Fishman-Lipsey.
This party started. So I'm muted. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rebecca Fishman-Lipsey. I'm the President and CEO of the Miami Foundation. We are so excited to welcome you to the Our Miami, the People's Forum, focused on County Commission for District 3. I want to thank the board at the Miami Foundation and our 12 nonprofit partners and our friends at NBC6 for making this possible, and a special shout out to the staff at the Miami Foundation for everything you're doing to make the magic happen. I know you're all tuning in tonight. I'm excited to watch this forum with you. And I want to remind all the viewers that this is not a debate. This is a forum. Our aim is to highlight the best of the candidates who are running for County Commission District 3, and for them to have the opportunity to share with us their values, their vision for the future of Miami, what they stand for, and to address the issues that matter most to the community. And for those of you who are tuning in tonight who have not had the chance yet to fill out the census, I want you to open up another browser and go, please, to 2020census.gov, fill out your census. Remember that your responses to the census are confidential, and that your participation really matters. And with that, I am so excited to pass it over to our MC for the evening, our moderator, Jawan Strader, over at NBC6. Thank you.
Rebecca, thank you for that warm introduction. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Our Miami, the People's Forum. I am your moderator, Jawan Strader with NBC6 News and Voices. Now, this is a forum and not a debate, and the goal here is to give District 3 voters a better insight on who the candidates are and how they feel about the issues. We're going to talk about a number of issues out there, from COVID-19, criminal justice reform and social justice, school safety, affordable housing, among other issues that also may include transit as well. A number of issues impacting District 3 as well as the South Florida community. Okay, let's get to the ground rules. The candidates already know the ground rules, but I'm going to say them once again. We don't want anyone to get in trouble here. Just joking. Okay, first ground rule here. Each candidate will answer the same opening question and given 1 minute to respond. Now, I do have an assistant next to me. He's actually my boss, and he's running the clock right now. So watch yourself if you go over, because I will cut you off. Matter of fact, we have some mute buttons as well. Each candidate then will have 90 seconds to respond to each of the remaining questions directed to them. Each candidate will have 30 seconds to respond to or rebuke specific comments made by their opponent when signaled by the moderator. So if I happen to say someone's name, well, that candidate can then rebuke and respond. Of course, we're going to keep it short. We're on a tight timeline here, and each candidate will be given 90 seconds at the end of the forum for closing remarks, but they are aware here of the ground rules. Okay, let's start it here. The next commissioner will replace incumbent Audrey Edmondson, who represented District 3 for 14 years, and that includes parts of downtown Miami and neighborhoods in the northern part of the city. So let's please welcome our candidates this evening. Brian Dennis, a longtime columnist for the Miami Times newspaper. Miami City Commissioner Keon Hardemon. Monester Lee-Kinsler, founder of the Leap of Faith nonprofit. And we must say that retired police officer Eddie Lewis, unfortunately, will not be able to join us. We had some technical issues with Mr. Lewis, so we apologize for that. Also, we have Tisa McGhee, an assistant professor at Barry University's Social Work School, and Gepsie Metellus, director of the Satla Haitian Neighborhood Center. I want to say welcome to all of our candidates this evening. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Welcome. Okay, let's begin with our first question here. Our opening question for each of you, our opening question is COVID related. And we're going to go ahead and start off, I always say ladies first. Gentlemen, let's respect our ladies. And let's start off with Gepsie Metellus. We're going to start off with you, and then we're going to make our way down. So Gepsie, I wanted to start off with you and ask you, if you were elected as the county commissioner, what post-COVID changes or initiatives would you put forth to ensure your district comes back stronger and more resilient to crises such as coronavirus?
Good evening, Joanne. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and thank you for the question. And so first thing, I would create something that we call a continuity of operations type of plan. And this is a plan that would begin to identify and to put in place the partnerships that we need to have, that we should have had prior to COVID, with respect to organizations, local institutions, in particular hospitals, food service providers, agricultural providers, food distributors in particular, such that we would have a network of organizations, institutions that would serve in disasters such as this, such that not only could we be properly supplied, our residents could have what they need, but we would have a plan in place to address the fallout, right? And so that is the number one thing you do. You learn from lessons of a previous experience in order to build in to elements to help you shoulder or overcome the next set of challenges. But you need a system in place where you have the partnerships, the organizations, the municipalities, the institutions that are key, that are essential, to use the popular word, essential to ensuring our survival and our ability to thrive.
Okay. All right. Tisa McGhee, the same question. If you were elected as county commissioner, what post-COVID changes or initiatives would you put forward to ensure that your district comes back stronger and more resilient to the crisis such as coronavirus?
Good afternoon, Joanne. Good afternoon, everybody. Tisa McGhee here. I'm so happy to have the opportunity to share with you all. I definitely would look into sustainability planning, and more so looking at the long term of this, the fallout of this crisis on our community. I think what we've been doing so far has been some short-term planning for 30 days or less, but we really need to look at what are the long-term issues that are going to be impacting our community. So for me, looking at economic empowerment, I would definitely check into our small businesses to see what we can do to help sustain them, to make sure that they have enough resources to be able to maintain their employees. I would look into housing to make sure that we have enough resources to continue to supplement or provide renters insurance, renters sustainability and being able to continue to stay in their homes, and mortgage assistance, as well as making sure that we have plans in place to work with organizations that are providing, community-based organizations that are providing services to all of the people that live in Miami-Dade County. Thank you.
Tisa McGhee, thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, let's hear from Monester Lee-Kinsler. Same question. Again, 1 minute to respond. If you were elected as the county commissioner, what post-COVID changes or initiatives would you put forward to ensure your district is stronger and more resilient to the crisis, such as coronavirus?
Greetings, Mr. Dewan. I'm happy to be a part of your forum. And hello to everyone. I'm glad. That's a great question. Number one, as a testing counselor for HIV, we should mandate that people they have certification, state training, and who are already in these departments, as well as we need to develop a plan, and we need to develop a department that deals with funds for disaster relief for certain situations when it comes for the business, for the people, and to make sure that all the testing counselors and the case manager and people who work in the field are trained. So they need to have a special disaster relief plan to execute in case of an emergency, and when it comes to economically impacting the people as well as physically impacting our people, and so that we can still continue and grow as we go.
Thank you so much, Monester, for that answer. And let's now move on to Miami City Commissioner Keon Hardemon, and let's ask you the same question, brother. If you were elected as the county commissioner, what post-COVID-19 changes or initiatives would you put forward to ensure that your district comes back stronger and more resilient to a crisis such as coronavirus?
Good evening, first of all. And the first thing that I would do is ensure that we have a partnership with the municipalities within the county. We've seen a lack of leadership as it pertains to our current county mayor, and he's not partnering with our municipal leaders. And so I would bring that. Second, I would ensure that our residents have access to low-income housing that they can afford to actually live in. So they have more resources with better paying jobs to be able to stand the storm when you have these type of tragedies that come about. I would also ensure that we have relief for businesses ready to go. In the city of Miami, we came out with immediate relief for business owners and also for residents within our communities to ensure that the people who were there didn't have to necessarily wait in line for food giveaways, but had the dignity of taking a voucher to a restaurant that was in their community. They could spend it, children could eat, and they maintained the dignity and pride that comes with buying from their community. And so I would do all those things, but most certainly partner with our local CEOs to ensure that they offer relief for services or for problems, just the same way we do in the county.
Keon, thank you. And let's hear now from Brian Dennis. Same question for you, Mr. Dennis. If you were elected as county commissioner, what post-COVID changes or initiatives would you put forward to ensure your district comes back stronger and more resilient to the crisis of coronavirus? 1 minute to respond.
Good evening. Thanks for the question. One of the things is pretty much the same thing that Commissioner Hardemon said is to have a partnership with the city commissioner, because the city of Miami sits totally District 5 sits in the middle of District 3. So one of the things that I would do is also have a dedicated block group of fund testing still to move forward with it, meaning that through a census tract, we'll be able to detect what's going on with the hot spots and the zip codes within the area. The businesses is a no-brainer, because a lot of the businesses in the community, even though they're open, a lot of them are shut down. So there has to be a dedicated source of funding, not just from the county, but the city and commissioner's office, along with private business, and also we'll go into public and private partnerships with the banks to make sure that those renters and homeowners are not levied with evictions and levied with foreclosures on their properties.
Mr. Dennis, thank you. Right on point. Man, you responded in 1 minute. You got it right. Okay, we're going to move on to our next question, and that's criminal justice reform and social justice. And this is a big one that we've been talking about. This is another crisis impacting our country as well as our community. And the question is as a county commissioner, Gepsie Metellus, as a county commissioner, will you support establishing and funding the proposed civilian police oversight panel? That has been a big question mark here in the county. We've been talking about it, and we know that Commissioner Barbara George, she has been trying to push that, but it's yet to pass just yet. So we want to hear from the candidates, all of you, on this question here. As a county commissioner, will you support establishing and funding the proposed civilian police oversight panel? Gepsie?
That's an absolute yes. I would also want to see it be put before voters, countywide voters, such that we can get reaffirmation that this is a way to keep our police accountable. This is a way to ensure that the community can in fact regain their trust and respect for the police. This is a way that we can then build forward and rebuilding, revitalizing, reshaping our police force. And beyond that, I would also want to advocate at both state legislative and federal legislative levels to ensure that we work with those legislative partners to look at what kinds of the kinds of policy and the kinds of laws that we want changed that go to criminal justice reform. So those areas that are within the state of Florida's purview, I would want to be a strong advocate along with allies to make sure that we make this happen, and the same thing on the federal level. Thank you.
Thank you, Gepsie. We're going to ask Tisa the same question. Tisa, I already posed a question. I'll just do it again just in case. As a county commissioner, we want you to know your thoughts on supporting and establishing and funding the proposed civilian police oversight panel. Tisa.
Unequivocally, a yes on my behalf. I believe in the tenets of social justice. As a member of the Black Affairs Advisory Board, we did support Commissioner Jordan's bringing this legislation forward, and I definitely 100% believe that we need this in order to build more trust in our community and help our ability to have that safety net feeling of having the police be part of our community. So I definitely would support that 100%.
Tisa, thank you. Monester Lee-Kinsler, your thoughts on this? Monester? We may have lost her. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to move on, and hopefully she'll pop up. Monester, there you are. There you go. There you go. Thought we lost you there for a minute, my sister.
Okay. I mean, absolutely. That's one of the big hot topics that's being discussed. It's like everything that's affecting our community seem to be rejected in the higher powers. They need to let the people make the decision, not the powerful, because you can't relate to what's going on down here. So we have to have that in check, because if it wasn't necessary, wasn't mandated, we wouldn't have to request it.
Okay. Commissioner Keon Hardemon, your thoughts?
Not only would I support it on the county level, I just want to remind everyone that we've supported it on the city level. So our investigative panel, not only was, when we were going in the right direction, the county was going in the wrong direction. We pegged the budget of the civilian oversight panel with that of the City of Miami Police Department. So now as the police department's budget grows, so does the investigative panel's budget. And that's important because it gives them the resources they need to continue to investigate alleged wrongs against people who are citizens in our community. And our citizens need an opportunity to go to someone who is a third party, who is non-partial, that they have confidence in, will hear their concerns, and begin to redress their issues. And so I think it's very, very important for all of our county commissioners to support it and also put their money where their mouth is.
Very well said. And Mr. Dennis, your thoughts? Mr. Dennis, I know you're there because I just saw your minute.
Yeah,
okay, there you are.
Definitely support this as a One of the architects of the civilian investigative panel in the city of Miami as the president of Brothers of the Same Mind, that's a no-brainer. What I would also look at is not just the funding of the police, but you don't necessarily really have to touch the police budget. The county has a $9 billion budget, so they could go right into general funds and just be able to put money wherever it needs to go to have the civilian investigative panel funded. Just like with Amendment 4, I would put it on the ballot. I would ask the commissioners to raise a vote to put it on the ballot so the people of Dade County can decide that if that's what they want. As a commissioner, that's a yes vote for me, but also it would be a yes vote for me as to have the citizens of Miami-Dade County to vote on it. So yes, I would definitely do that.
Okay, sounds like many of you pretty much are in agreement on this particular issue. Okay, let's move on to our next question. And then I want to get to some questions from some viewers that reached out to us, and they have questions for all of you as well. So moving on to our next question, what policy changes do you intend to champion in order to address cases of police brutality across the county? That's been a #1 issue, of course, especially it was magnified after the death of George Floyd. So let's hear from you, Gepsie Metellus, on this particular issue. What policy changes do you intend to champion in order to address cases of police brutality in the district?
So again, most definitely a civilian investigative panel. Secondly, banning such tactics as chokeholds and a number of undesirable practices that we know are common, right? Banning those outright. Ensuring that the police department understands that it must be held accountable and it must be accountable to the people that it protects and serves. And so there needs to be a set of policies that discipline and in fact take care of police officers who violate or who break the laws or violate our trust, right? Beyond that, I would want to see a regime of training opportunities for police officers, everything including, the multicultural relations in this community, the history of police-community relations, implicit bias, and the kinds of things that certain instruments can measure, right? Such that we can then understand what actions need to be taken with a police officer who happens to be not necessarily portraying the kinds of behaviors or attitudes that we would want to see in our police officers. And any measure, whether it is a measure that's attempted in a different jurisdiction, but that's proving to be promising, or that actually is a best practice, I would want us to incorporate. Because while we say we need the police, we want a police force that is about community, that we want community policing tactics, we want to rebuild trust in the police, but I have to remind everyone that some communities have had an abominable relationship with the police. And so if we're going to rebuild that trust, some significant steps have to be taken.
Okay, remember, we have to be careful on our time. 90 seconds to respond. Once again, Gepsie Metellus, very well said. Let's move on to Tisa McGhee. Let's ask you the same question. What policy changes do you intend to champion in order to address cases of police brutality in the county and in your district, if elected?
Well, I believe we all have the right to work and play in a safe and secure environment. All the residents of Miami-Dade County, especially the ones in District 3, are tired of sort of the senseless culture of violence. And I believe that we can do more in terms of some common sense legislation to support county programs that are working throughout Miami-Dade County collaboratively with the local municipal police departments to make sure that they're enforcing all of the regulations that they should be as police departments and being accountable to those. And so I would also explore interagency cooperation agreements, and then also support the group violence initiative that is already in play in Miami-Dade County and working in some communities that really need that type of intervention, where they're working to suppress the crime and the criminal element by working with the community to engage them in that process. So I would support those things specifically.
Okay, Tisa, thank you. Let's move on now to Monester Lee-Kinsler, and we want your thoughts on this.
You would never ask Number one, we need to do relationship building. We need to review the policies they have that's holding them accountable, allowing them to get away with certain things, reinforce, re-amend, and amend a lot of this stuff. If you did relationship building so they could do cultural diversity in our community, because most people seem to go by what they hear, not what they know. So we need to pair them up, let them come in our community, and we need more cultural diversity and leadership when it comes to the police department. You might have one or two commanders or two sergeants, but mostly it's people who don't even serve our community. I mean, don't live here, but you're serving or you're working in our community, and we need more people from the community to police our community because they'll understand our community, not just have a job.
Minister, thank you. Commissioner Keon Hardemon, your thoughts?
First, I'd like to say that I believe that my mother's a retired police officer for the city of Miami. And I have numerous family members that are also not only currently serving in police enforcement, but also for law enforcement, but also have retired from law enforcement. And I'll tell you the one thing that I've noticed is that there needs to be additional training for police officers, especially in conflict resolution. Officers need to be placed in communities that they are unaware of or not familiar with, so they can become more culturally aware of the differences between what a criminal does and what someone who is a law-abiding citizen that looks just like someone else within the community does and how they act. I believe that we need ongoing mental health screening for police officers, because this is a job that has a lot of stress. My mother is also retired from the Army, and the impact, what they used to call shell shock of the Army, and you add that to what has been happening in the police department, and it has a devastating effect on people. And with that, coupled with that, I think that police officers deserve to retire earlier than other people, because that job is so stressful that it weighs on not only the person but their mind. And so I would encourage all of these things with a healthy discussion with the PBA as alternatives to make the relationships between our people and the community and the police better.
Yeah, Hardemon, thank you for that. And let's hear now from Brian Dennis once again and your thoughts on this particular issue.
One of the things that I would do as far as the policy training, I mean, the policy changing is to try to understand the training. One of the next things I would do as a former United States Marine is would more so want military-based trainers involved, and here's why. As a former United States Marine and you have military police officers, you pretty much got the best of both worlds. The world is taught that it would be taught in both worlds from a military standpoint and then from a police officer standpoint. So what that would then do outside of the training is also allow them to know that those chokeholds and different things that are taught in the police academy are not taught in the military. So you have two different types of training to be able to make that one training become universal to fit everybody. The next thing that I would also do, and I'm gonna close with this, is that psych eval. People could play real well in doing the psych eval to do just enough to get past it. But if you got somebody that's in the position to bring you on as a friend or whoever, how do you stop that? So you have to have people that are in there that have no connection to anyone, which that'll be hard to root it out to find out. But you have to have people in there that understand the police department and understand the background check as well.
Okay, well, I'm going to ask you another question, Mr. Dennis. We're going to go back around this time. I'm going to mix it up a little bit. And this comes from a viewer, Ruth Ramirez. She says, what role will you play in reducing violence in these communities across the county? What role will you play in reducing the violence? Mr. Dennis? Sorry, Mr. Dennis, we have you muted. So let's see if we can get you back. Mr. Dennis, you are muted. Can we get you back? Okay, Mr. Dennis, there you go. Okay.
The question?
Yeah, I'm going to repeat the question to you. This comes from our viewer, Ruth Ramirez. She says, what role will you play in reducing violence across the county, especially in your community?
In my community, one of the first things we have to do is stand with how there's unemployment. A lot of District 3 is one district in Miami-Dade County gets millions of dollars and still looks like May 18, 1980. So the first thing that we have to do is to ensure that our residents are not only trained for employment, but trained to understand and given the opportunity to work. What's happening with the construction and everything that comes inside our community with different jobs, people are already bringing employees with them. So the community has to compete with those employees that are already coming inside the community. So we have to be able to be conscious enough to understand economic development in our community, but also be savvy enough to know that it's our people that need to work in our district. That is how the crime will go down.
Mr. Dennis, thank you. All right, Commissioner Hardemon, your thoughts on this. What role will you play in reducing the violence across the county as well as in your community if elected to the commission?
I would do many of the things that I'm already doing in the city of Miami. And so those things look like employing those individuals who are committing these crimes. So the youth and young people who are actually making terrible decisions, giving them an opportunity to actually pick up a paycheck instead of a firearm. No, many of these kids don't have jobs, and no one that I know of leaves a 9 to 5 and goes out to commit a murder at the end of the night because they're too focused on providing for their family. We have to provide economic development opportunities in our communities. I'll continue to renovate housing for people who live long-term residents in communities. I will transition people from public housing to ownership in those same spaces instead of making huge rental communities. I mean, the idea is that you have to understand that crime is a symptom of poverty. So unless you fight poverty in our communities, you're not going to have any effect on crime. And there are people who believe that the more police officers you put in the community, the more safe it would be. But I guarantee you that there are communities that are very safe, that seldom see police officers drive their streets. And so it's not a symptom of the police officer. It's a symptom of the lack of resources that the people who live in those communities have. So we need to instill pride in our place. And I believe that pride in your place will build the confidence of young people, and they won't commit crimes as much as they have in the past.
All right. Keon Hardemon, thank you. Monester, your thoughts?
One, we have to do what we say and not say what we gonna do. One, if we raise the quality of life of these people, the young people, particularly, I just met one today. He work at a fast food and he's still carrying. Why? Because you don't know what's going to happen. And because you are allowing all these poverty programs in our community that's keeping us broke, busted, disgusted, and sick, we're not able to function. We have lack of access. There's too many young people that's homeless. It's too many young people not getting paid enough, and that's the time for you to populate. So that's another form of control and genocide, so you can perpetuate these poverty programs because they're not making enough money to even live. You need to give them business minds, business opportunities. These young people have opportunities to make money. They just don't have the tools because so many people in the way that's blocking them from flying. So we need to raise that and pay attention to who's coming in our community, talking about you for the community when you really not, you just here to profit off of us.
Okay, Monester, thank you. Tisa McGhee, your thoughts?
Tisa McGhee.
Tisa.
I want to say that, using my social service background, I really believe in this concepts of proactive and early intervention or prevention services that would provide additional supports to families that need that type of assistance. But thinking through the district and knowing that we don't necessarily need increased social service involvement, we need to invest in community centers. We need to invest in after school programs and mental health resources. I think trauma response centers would be something that I would want to champion, where we have social workers and people who are working within the community to have and advance some of the issues that are important to the residents. I'm thinking about the entire district as well. We have a lot of diverse needs in District 3, and so it's important for us to address all of those as well. But in terms of the role in reducing violence, I definitely want to champion those things that are more proactive and interactive that we are needing to do in order to make sure that families are safe.
My apologies. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for that. All right, Gepsie, your thoughts?
Thank you very much. Of course, we know that crime and violence in our communities is in fact a symptom of lack of opportunity. And so it stands to reason that we need to create or expand opportunities for kids in particular, right? And for me, that takes the shape of educational opportunities, training opportunities, opportunities to intern or to apprentice, and careers with which they're not necessarily too familiar. I am a strong proponent of building hope in our future generations. And for me, one of the best policy options that begins to do that is investing in children and their education through children's savings account. CSAs have been, they've been documented to do so much in terms of raising hopes, raising the aspirations, reaffirming for children that their communities believe in them, their communities want them to succeed, and their communities are prepared to do what it takes to help them do that. And so in addition to that, you certainly have to create an environment where children feel hopeful that their housing and their food and the look and feel of their neighborhood isn't one that says that you are not cared for, that you are the last person we think of. And in fact, that's what we have to flip. That's what we've got to flip if we're going to begin to curtail the violence and criminality in our communities. Thank you.
Gepsie, thank you. And let's move on to another question that we have from a viewer. And this is about affordable housing, which we know is a very, very important issue, especially with what we're going on and dealing with when it comes to COVID-19. This is from Samuel Lattimore. What strategies do you plan to address the needs of seniors and emergency preparedness? What strategies do you plan to address the needs of seniors with housing and emergency preparedness? Well, let's start with you this time, and we're going to make our way down. And again, I'm trying to switch it up and move around. So you have that first question here from Samuel Lattimore.
I have an initiative that I do want to implement for my seniors, and it's tight work. It's to make sure my seniors are not continuously struggling, choosing between medication and where they gonna pay, how they gonna pay their bills. I think that's a disrespect for not only District 3, but for the county overall, when you got the seniors who done put in so many years and retiring, and that's why they still at work, because nobody is helping the seniors adjusting their flexibility on their mortgages or their rent. And so now they got to go to work because everything rising except for people income. And I just met an amputee today, and he said that he'd been trying to get affordable housing, which is word games that these people are playing to keep people from qualifying, or people that's in need, and it's people who usually don't lie. So we need to change how we screening people who need affordable housing or who need housing, especially our seniors, so they don't end up under the bridge and on the streets or begging for food. We need help, we need change. So you need to punch 334 for your future county commissioner, because we're not getting it now, and there's too many people struggling unnecessarily.
Monester, thank you. And Tisa, same question for you, is from, again, Samuel Lattimore. What strategy do you plan to address the needs of seniors with housing and emergency preparedness?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the question, Samuel. We really need to be prioritizing our seniors in our community. I feel like we are not doing enough to make sure that they are, their needs are being met. I definitely want to be a voice for everyone in the district, and specifically around seniors. The things that I would do is really look at what housing opportunities that we have now for seniors, and making sure that they are safe, that they meet certain requirements. If they are in their own homes, making sure that they have the right resources in order to protect and continue to stay in their own homes, if that's what they would like to do, and also providing additional resources so that they can ensure that their homes can meet those emergency preparedness and response issues. So if we're planning to have a hurricane, or they need windows and doors that really will update their homes and make them safer, we have to be looking at what are the resources that we can put towards doing that. And secondly, in terms of emergency preparedness, I definitely want to make sure that they have everything that they need to be able to survive any emergency issue that comes up within the county. So prioritizing our seniors is going to be an utmost important piece of this plan that I have for the county. Thank you.
Tisa, thank you. Mr. Dennis, we're going to come back around to you right now on that same question. What strategies do you plan to address the needs of seniors with housing and emergency preparedness?
Well, there's nothing I can saying we're being gentrified out of our houses. The only place that they're actually gentrifying it is in District 3 and District 5 of the city of Miami. One of the first things that I would do is get with the seniors and stop them from the predatory practices of reverse mortgages, with reverse mortgages and the lending practices that put them in positions. Also with these home improvement programs that then will say that, okay, we're gonna fix your house, but then come back that the rate is now on the tax bill as a taxable income to the house to make the property values go up. That's putting a senior that's on fixed income into a bad position. What needs to be happening is proper legislation need to be rendered for that whatever income or whatever improvements that are done from the county or the city of Miami, that the seniors have no payment, no anything that they have to pay toward that. A lot of times these programs come back around with something in the paperwork that taxes these seniors for the works that's being done to their home.
Mr. Dennis, thank you. Gepsie, Metellus, you want to respond to that question?
Certainly, thank you. So I think Miami-Dade County needs to be a model county in terms of the way it treats its seniors. So in terms of housing, we want to be sure that there's designated senior housing with the proper supportive services, the proper amenities, you know, things like recreation, food, health, right? And the kinds of supportive environment that our seniors need to thrive. Now, there are those seniors who are homeowners and whose homes are subject to predators and scammers, very often who come from our own community, from their own families. And so I think we need to really punish this very severely, because that should be a practice that is not accepted, not tolerated. And so there needs to be some resolutions or some ordinances that deal with that at the county level. And beyond that, you know, there are seniors who are often the victim of tax liens on their properties for various reasons. We would have to look at how we create an opportunity for there to be some mediation around what those liens look like and why they were incurred, right? And even in terms of those who owe back taxes for various reasons, we ought to implement this very popular program that's called Pay As You Stay, right? This is an opportunity to pay off your taxes, to pay off your liens as you remain in your house without being threatened to be evicted. Now, in terms of the emergency planning, I think we need a list of vulnerable seniors in particular in our county. This needs to be coordinated with municipalities such that they can tell us who their vulnerable seniors are, so that for purposes of emergency planning, you know who it is that you're going to need to shelter,
right.
which shelters designated for seniors, transportation, and
I'm going to cut you off, Gepsie. I'm going to have to cut you
done.
off. All right, I'll let you go a little bit over now. Now, you know I love you, girl. Now, you know I love you. You're gonna text me something bad, too. I know, because I just cut you off. My apologies. But again, 90 seconds, ladies and gentlemen, 90 seconds. We're going to try to keep it in there. Okay, Keon Hardemon, let's hear from you on this same question from Samuel Lattimore. What strategies do you plan to address the needs of seniors with housing and emergency preparedness? Again, 90 seconds.
First, you should understand that seniors should not have to compete with 28-year-old men in line at Home Depot to put up plywood over their windows to be safe before a storm. We've all seen the scenes where the stores are ravaged and there's no supplies that are left. And our seniors are on the losing end of that every single year. And so I would do what in the county, what we did in the city of Miami, which is create funding to help make the homes of our seniors resilient to storms. And so that looks like free grants for them to have high impact windows and doors and HVAC systems installed in their homes, so that their homes not only are storm resistant, but they rise in property value. And they have the confidence that they can live in that home for the next 50 years or pass it down to their family members. I would also team up with people like Mr. Samuel Lattimore. Mr. Samuel Lattimore is the president of a homeowners association. So you have two types of seniors, those that live in homes and those that live in apartment units. And so when you look at the senior housing versus the homes, there are a number of people who we don't know, unless for people like Samuel Lattimore, that has a list of all the seniors that live within the communities that need our help. And then we team up with other CBOs to tackle those apartment complexes that are senior housing. So we don't have issues where you have seniors that are going without their insulin, they put on ice, and they don't have food and resources. It is a common effort, and it is something that I would do along with the city to ensure that our community of seniors gets all the support that it needs.
Okay, thank you very much. You know, along those lines, we're going to stick to affordable housing because it's such an important issue here in the county. And Gepsie, you were kind of alluding to it a little bit before I had to cut you off because of time, but I'm going to ask you this next question. This is from Keely Stewart. She says, what do you think is the most effective approach to address affordable housing in the county? What do you think is the most effective approach to address affordable housing in the county? So Gepsie,
so there is a recently published a housing affordability plan, right? That for me offers a really great framework, right? And that framework includes what we need to do to ensure that we procure senior housing, housing for millennials, housing for low-income people, whether it's public housing, low to moderate income housing, micro units, the kinds of developments that we want to encourage, whether they be transit oriented because of their proximity to transportation. There is, I think, a wonderful mixture, a wonderful mix, and a number of approaches that could serve as guidelines, as a framework for us to follow. We recognize that we need more than 120,000 affordable units right now in our community, right? And so if we're going to really make an effort and beginning to address that, we need to all be on the same page around the necessity and the importance, if not the urgency. Housing is an emergency in our community today, and we are to treat it as such. We are to treat it with the care and the attention that emergencies require. Of course, there are a number of financing programs, financing streams that help to create these affordable units, that create not just affordable units, but units that, you know, your working family of four earning less than $60,000 can actually afford in our community. These units are far becoming non-existent. And so again, that Miami-Dade County affordability plan would be my framework.
Gepsie, thank you. Thank you. And let's move back to Mr. Dennis on this particular question as well. What do you think? This is from Keely Stewart. What do you think is the most effective approach to housing in the county?
One of the first things, the best approach is the low housing. That's the first thing, because again, there's nothing affordable about affordable housing. If you're building a single family home for $240,000, and you have a family of four of somebody with a medium income of maybe $50,000 or $60,000, you are basically just stretching them out over a whole lifetime of paying for a house that at one point would cost less than $100,000. I was with a developer just last week, and they could put a house together with all the amenities that a person wants for less than $80,000. So why is a house that you could build for $80,000 costing double and triple the amount of money? It's the area. The area in Liberty City is proximity to the expressway 995 and 112. So that would be the way to approach affordable housing. Once Miami-Dade County got the property appraiser's office, the property values in Liberty City and everywhere else is shot through the roof. So there's nothing about affordable housing and affordable in Miami until you attack the building and the cost of building houses that's astronomical and out of the price range for someone that can't afford it.
Mr. Dennis, thank you. Monester, let's hear from you on this question as far as the most effective approach to address affordable housing in the county.
Well, scriptures say the strong supposed to bear the affirmatives of the weak. Why are we allowing the powerful to come and implement in our communities when like 30% of our income goes towards housing or to keep a roof over your head? And because of that, and there's so many people in our district, it's over 43,000 people, they cannot afford, they barely make enough to live. So we need to make agreements with the people who swear they love our community, they're about our community. We really need to hold them accountable for being in our community. And that would eliminate all of these people here who investing in properties. They're more about investing and profiting than the people and somewhere to stay. They don't care by any means necessary. So we need to stop building these relationships with the powerful and really care and have a concern about the people, and that will cut this price.
Monester, thank you. Commissioner Hardemon, let's hear from you.
So the first thing we need to do is open up the entire county for affordable housing. And stop speaking in codes when we talk about affordable housing. So every time we say affordable housing, what you mean are rental units for people. And that's not fair, because what happens is the entire county isn't open to the idea of having affordable housing in their areas. When we build or extend upon new areas, we're not requiring them to build any affordable housing. And in the areas where there is land that the county owns, you are giving the land to affordable housing developers to offer rents to people in the community that go up every single year. And in time, will make it unaffordable. In time, the covenants will expire, and those people will be out of a place to live. So what we should do is take the county-owned land and create housing opportunities for people for home ownership. And the people who live in places like Liberty Square should have an opportunity to own a home in the space that they've been living in for the past 20 years. And that's what I would do to ensure that there is affordable housing ongoing, not only in District 3, but in other neighborhoods in Miami-Dade County.
Tisa McGhee, let's hear from you on this particular question. What do you think is the most effective approach to address affordable housing in the county?
I believe that we already know that 30% of our people are spending 30% of their income on rent, which is leaving them severely cost burdened. We know that it is more affordable and workforce housing is needed because we have so many units that are actually coming offline that we don't have enough to support the infrastructure that we have right now. So I think that the affordability crisis is partly due to the fact that we don't have enough higher paying jobs. So I would support trying to have more public-private partnerships that bring higher paying jobs for our residents and making sure that they have full-time gainful employment with benefits and all of the things that they need in order to be able to reside in Miami-Dade County. With that being said, I have a 27-year-old who's looking for housing and is finding it impossible to find a house to buy here in Miami-Dade County because of the income restrictions, and being able to figure out how to navigate those things are something that we have to really put some more effort into. We could do much better because we want to keep our millennials here in Miami-Dade County. So I would invest in an affordable housing trust fund, making sure that we are using public land in the best interest of the communities and making sure that the community members are the ones that are being able to purchase homes and really build and develop their self within the community, because we know that causes for higher community engagement. So those are the things that I would do.
Tisa, thank you. Thank you so much. And we are going to start off, Monester, with you on this particular question here. And we're going to shift now to school safety. School safety, a very, very important issue, especially in the wake of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas shooting tragedy. So question here is, what policies do you support to keep children safe at schools, Monester?
One, you give them understanding and knowledge of their history and who they are and how valuable they are. We're not allowing them to understand how important it is for you to even just make it to your first chapter of life. So if I have nothing to lose, I have nothing to look forward to, I have no hope, who worried about what's going to happen to me, or how I'm going to function in school, or why I'm worrying about if I take somebody's life? We're not teaching economic opportunities, economic freedom. We're not teaching them wealth transfer, so they're not suppressing. They got so many issues they're dealing with at home that when they come to school, it just takes one thing to, and I'm speaking as a teacher. You dealing with issues, how you gonna function and learn if you your mind seeing mom strung out, or mom can't pay the bills, or we homeless. So we need to give a safe environment, haven, so they're not stressed. It's perpetuating these programs that eating off of the problem and not the solutions.
Monester, thank you. Commissioner Keon Hardemon, let's get your thoughts on this issue as far as what policies do you support to keep children safe in schools?
You know, that's a complicated question, although it comes off very simple, because I'm a product of Miami-Dade County Public Schools, and I'll tell you that I felt most safe at school. Some of our kids don't have the opportunity to be safe at home. They're dealing with a lot of the issues that Monester spoke about. Their homes are violent, their homes are dangerous, their homes are empty. They don't have food in their refrigerator, and they're safer in a place like school. And so we, as a kid growing up in the inner city, our threat wasn't coming from outside the school in. That wasn't our threat. I mean, the school was a safe haven for people. What I wouldn't do is I wouldn't encourage police officers who are assigned to school to arrest children for crimes that are juvenile pranks. I wouldn't do that. I would not give them the sort of the school to prison pipeline issues that we have today, because we put more and more police officers in our schools. You know, gone are the days of officer friendly, where children in our community, especially at schools, feel safe going to speak with the principal and the principal's office with the police officer near them. Oftentimes that leads in our arrests. And so I think that's a real reality that we should think about. In other communities, they don't have that problem. In communities where you have schools like Ransom Everglades, they give their parents a call, and their parents give them a nice talking to. And that's all that's needed in order to solve an issue. And so I would encourage all of us to be honest about this whole safety issue. And we have to talk openly about who is it that we're trying to keep safe. Is it all of our students or just some of them?
All right, thank you. Right on time right there. All right, let's hear now from Tisa McGhee. We want to get your thoughts on this as far as, again, the policies, and what policies do you support to keep children safe in schools?
So as a social service advocate, somebody who really works with children and families, I'm a member of the Together for Children board, and we've talked about some of the issues that are plaguing our community schools regarding safety. And one of the things that I think is important to note is that the impact of trauma in all of our schools and how kids are seeing that. So I would support legislation that would ensure that we have some sort of mental health and mental health services in the schools that would continue to help people feel and understand how safe they are. I would support legislation that looks at safety issues and how we can actually put those resources in school responsibly, making sure that the schools have the funding in order to carry those things out that we are asking them to do. And then as a parent, I just think about, you know, how do you want your kids to be in school? And so I would always have that thought process in mind as a county commissioner, representing the voice of all the parents in the community. Thank you.
Tisa McGhee, thank you. Mr. Dennis, we want your thoughts on this. What policies do you support to keep children safe at schools?
It's definitely not having everybody in school, as far as teachers and staff, toting guns, because you're creating a culture of the Wild Wild West. When we look at what's taking place with our safety in our public schools, it's coming from those that are not mentally stable, of those that decide to prove a point just because they have access to guns or to prove a point to make the news. One of the things that we have to look for in school safety is all of these police officers that are in the school. Just because they're in the school don't make it safe. What's also happening is, with those police officers being in the school, is that when you look at Orlando and a 6-year-old child is going to jail, they're creating felons at a young age. So by the time they turn 18, they can't vote. So you're talking about being inside the school system, policies about being safe. The people that's making decisions are not in the position to actually feel the trauma of what's taking place inside the community. I'm gonna close with this here real quick. Proverbs 22:6 says, train up a child in the way that he should go. If the school system is not helping the homes or trying to find out what's going on in the homes of the children, then the children are going to bring the problem to the school. So the safety issue is a community and school board issue.
Mr. Dennis, thank you. And That same question, Gepsie, we want to ask you and get your thoughts on it as far as policies that you support to keep children safe in schools.
Thank you, Joanne. And so for me, there is a difference between physical safety and socio-emotional safety for children. So in terms of the physical safety, we're talking about making sure that the school is secure, that it's hardened where it needs to be to protect the lives of children. And I think that goes to significant collaboration and partnerships with the local school district as well as the municipalities. Because I think here again, this is an area, if we value the lives of our children, this is an area where we need to work together to identify the best practices, the proven strategies that in fact render a school building safe. But beyond the physical safety, there is also this need to not allow, although you have police presence in school to protect the kids, to protect the staff, you should not allow that children be arrested in a school building. So that should be something that we have a zero tolerance to it. In terms of socio-emotional safety, again, I would really want to see counselors in schools, right? The counselors that really work to make school a safe haven for children who are facing a number of insecurities out in the community. And so if we're going to be about ensuring safety, we've got to look at both their physical as well as their socio-emotional safety. Thank you.
Gepsie, thank you. Right on point, right on time, right on time. All right, you got it. You are on it. Okay, moving on to our next question. We received a lot of questions when it comes to climate change. We received a lot of questions, so we're going to just kind of keep that short, but it's something that we want to touch on. So Tisa, we're going to start with you on this particular question. And this is from David Pearson. It's very simple. What is your plan for rising tides and climate change? What is your plan for rising tides and climate change? Tisa McGhee.
So I've looked into the county's plan, and I've reviewed the sustainability issues that they looked at around the rising tide. I'm a resident of Edgewater, so I know I know the problems that happen when you build right on the water line and flooding happens, and it's something that is not sustainable for our community. We need to be making sure that we have more natural habitats that will actually protect our shoreline, and making sure that we have and are using things that are safe for our environment. I realized that during COVID that we have had less use of our resources and our infrastructure, and that has brought phenomenal results in terms of our environment. So I would want to look at what ways we can actually try to sustain those things so that we can continue to have the phenomenal results that we're having now in terms of our environment. So those are some of the things that I would do, is review the county's plan, make sure that we are using natural and protective, environmentally safe resources, and then making sure that we are actually taking care of our environment. That's one of the things I'd champion.
All right, City of Miami Commissioner Keon Hardemon, let's get your thoughts on this. What is your plan for rising tides and climate change?
I read in a book many years ago of a great scholar, and he said, "Show me the money." And so I said that to you to say that the county has to show us the money, like we did in the city of Miami. $200 million to affect climate change, right? And that's what we need to do in Miami-Dade County. We have to be the stewards of protecting the properties and the values of our homeowners in our communities. How is it that Miami-Dade County can attract residents to its area, promising them beaches, promising them great views from their condos in Edgewater, and promising them all of these wonderful spaces and places for their children to live and grow? But then they allow water to erode upon their safety, to erode upon their largest investment that many of them have made in their lives. It's just not fair. And so the counties, the cities, the state, and the federal government have to show the money to the people who live in our communities, because one homeowner may be able to put his house on stilts and live above everyone else, but that doesn't save the community. And what good is this one house in an island where everyone else is suffering from the effects of sea level rise? And so we have to do what we can. The first thing you have to do is show us the money.
All right, I'm thinking about Jerry Maguire, the movie. I wasn't even thinking about the book, Show Me the Money. Okay, I was thinking, who would get it, Junior? Okay.
It was the movie.
It was the movie, though.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, just making sure. Okay. All right, Gepsie, I want to ask you the same question. And what is your plan for rising tides and climate change?
So the county has been a partner in a number of important initiatives, like the 750 Compact. That's a regional plan to have the 4 major counties in this area coordinate and act together in terms of mitigating the impacts of climate change and the rising sea. So I think we need to stick to that playbook. Most recently, a number of cities, including Miami, were awarded through the Rockefeller Foundation and some other large foundations with this program called Resilient Cities. Again, they're looking at ways to not only render the cities more resilient, but ensure that the residents are also just as resilient, right? So beyond that, I am just gonna follow the science, right? So I believe in holding the line on the urban development boundary. I believe in making sure that we do things that protect our water supply. I believe in protecting the Everglades. I believe in doing the kinds of things that the science clearly suggests need to be done if we say we care about protecting our environment, mitigating the effects of climate change, and making sure that we protect our communities and residents.
Metellus, thank you. Thank you. Mr. Dennis, we're going to come to you now on this question. What is your plan for rising tides and climate change?
Is that for the entire county or for the district?
Both.
For the district, Liberty City, Overtown, Allapattah, Brownsville doesn't have a problem with climate change because it doesn't flood in those areas. The areas that are lying on the coast, the Miami Shores and the Allapattah, those areas that are pretty much off Key Biscayne, those are low-lying areas. So the water, the county doesn't have a draining system in that area. One of the things that I would have done as a county commissioner is get with those municipalities and help put forth legislation and money to create a draining system in the area. Not allow the money to sit up, not allow the water to sit up and fester and then cause problems with mosquitoes. That's the first thing that that's the thing that I would do for the district. As a county commissioner, the one thing that I would do is find those commissioners, help those commissioners who have the problem in their areas with the flooding, see what we can come up with as a plan together and support them with the effort. But again, the money has to be there. The money has to be shown because Miami-Dade County gets billions of dollars. And for a county that gets billions of dollars, the areas shouldn't flood the way that it's flooding. Miami Beach, we know 100 years ago, Miami Beach flooded. So we turn around 100 years later, guess what's happening? Miami Beach flooding again. So that's leadership. There's a question of leadership there.
Mr. Dennis, thank you. Okay, Monester, let's bring you in on this conversation. What are your plans for rising tides and climate change?
Spend the money. I did some research on that. I noticed that West 9th Avenue, they raised the street level. Some of the schools that have been rebuilt is because they've brought them up high. And so you have properties or you have housing in our districts, in the districts from Miami Beach, they are raising the streets. We need to spend the money, but yet we have engineers in the military that are building walls, that's building up, they are like an Army Corps of engineers that are building these walls to keep that sea level from them waves from hitting. But at the same time, Florida is the bottom. Florida is built on water. We just have to spend the money. You can't just keep saying we're gonna get the money, but when we get it, we're not raising up the community, which means redeveloping. So we gotta spend the money and mean what we say.
Monester, thank you. You know, another hot topic in the county happens to be transit, public transportation. And that is another question. And so let's pose this first question here to Keon Hardemon. And public transit systems in Miami-Dade are experiencing massive ridership and budgetary losses as a result of COVID-19. So what is your plan to ensure that Miami-Dade transit bounces back. What is your plan to make sure that it bounces back? Keon Hardemon.
The first thing that we should understand that Miami-Dade Transit shouldn't be in the business of necessarily trying to make a profit. We should be in the business of trying to provide a necessary service for people who need it. And in the process, we should be able to attract new riders to the system that have their own vehicular transportation. So we need to increase mass transit in our spaces so that we can have more people come from our northern boundaries, our southern boundaries quicker to our downtown areas and our job centers. That intel will build and develop more neighborhoods along those transit corridors, which causes more economic development, more investing into the resources to those areas, and people have access to better jobs. And then make transportation free for people who cannot afford that second highest bill that they have besides housing is transportation. Because what happens is, if you have poor credit, you find yourself paying too much because your interest rate is very high on a junk car. That junk car then it fails. You have to then pay not only the note, but also the insurance that is pretty high. And you're stuck without a car, but still paying these high levels of insurance and payments. And so you're in a worse situation than you were before. If Miami-Dade County have provided you free transportation, or like what we do is Wheels to Work in the city of Miami, offering low-cost transportation options to people, you're able to meet those job needs without having a hardship financially for transportation and give back to our communities.
Commissioner Hardemon, thank you for that. Let's hear now from Monester. I want to bounce back to you on this question. Let's hear from you. What is your plan to ensure that Miami-Dade Transit bounces back after experiencing massive ridership and budgetary losses as a result of COVID-19?
Well, as I've said previously, this should be a time for them to build the community. It should be able to raise our income and raise us from poverty by employing. Why are we worried about what transit is going to get? Transit make a lot of money just because tourists put $100 bill in the bus thinking they're going to get some change. You know how many tourists done did this? You need to be concerned about how we going to get back and forth to work and how it affects our mindset, because when you can't get to your job, it's mentally, it's draining. So why we should have budget. We already got budgets and funds available for Metro-Dade, for the transit department. It comes from a state level and a national level. Why are they so concerned about what we gonna do as commissioners when we wanna make sure the population and the people are good? Then you'll flow, then monies will come, because now people be coming from other areas. So we need to make sure the people first before our profits.
Monester, thank you. Tisa, let's hear from you on this issue. What are your thoughts? What's your plan to ensure that Miami-Dade Transit bounces back?
I believe that a lot of these issues that we're talking about, Jawan, are interrelated. So when it comes to it, like I have a systems sort of mindset in terms of looking at these issues across. So higher paying jobs, affordable housing, and transportation need to be working together, because we have a lot of people who do not live where they work. And so they have to end up paying the high cost of transportation, and even trying to increase public transportation ridership. We need to be looking at organizations like the Transportation Alliance and their plans of how they looked at the SMART plan and thought about how traffic and transportation issues are going to be impacted by things like COVID. They've updated their plan to look at this issue from this perspective. And what they've said is that we've got to lower the transportation costs in order to be able to get more riders to go back into and feel safe enough to use our public transportation services. So those are the things that I would really champion.
All right, Tisa, thank you. Thank you so much for that. Okay, Mr. Dennis, let's hear from you. Let's get your thoughts.
First of all, had the county done right in the early 2000s with the penny tax money, public transportation wouldn't be in trouble. Had they extended the Metro Rail to County Line Road like the penny tax said that it should, instead of building the rail at the airport and extending it out to the Palmetto, they wouldn't be experiencing problems. When you're looking at the profit and loss, what we're talking about is you want people to get on the bus that's compacted to where people are not being safe at that time. A lot of the bus drivers got sick because of COVID-19. Matter of fact, the mayor forced a bus driver back on the bus. And they just had a funeral just recently. I helped officiate a funeral. So when we're talking about being safe in public transportation, is the county itself ensuring that the workers of the transit union being supported. So when we're talking about money and dollars, when we're talking about putting money in the right place and doing the right thing with it, Miami-Dade County has lost its way. So when we say the profit and loss, had you done right with the money that had been put forth years ago, when this situation arose as COVID-19 did, regardless of what's going on, public transportation would have still been running at a profit.
Mr. Dennis, thank you. Okay, Gepsie, want you to chime in on this?
Yes, thank you very much. So Miami-Dade County, we view ourselves as a world-class city, right? World-class cities have world-class transportation systems. And so if we're going to embark on creating this world-class transportation system, we've got a number of elements of plans. You know, there is the SMART plan, there's the People's Transportation Plan. Of course, the Transit Alliance has a nice framework for engaging community residents so that they can provide their input around what it would take, you know, whether they would value, frequency or an expanded systems or expanded corners that expand the routes, if you will. So, you know, if you want to increase ridership, we want a transit or transit options that are reliable, that are safe, that in fact move people. You know, some of those things will cost. And we need to, I think, be upfront and straight with community residents. And so if we value this transit, we value the opinions of our residents, community engagement is going to be key to get us to where we need to go, because we've got the element, and what's missing is that public input to guarantee that we're making the best decisions that really benefit the entire county.
Gepsie, thank you. And right now it is time for our closing remarks. Just so each of the candidates know, once again, for closing remarks, you will be given 90 seconds here for your closing remarks. And let's go ahead and start off with Monester Lee-Kinsler. We're going to hear from you, MLK 2020, and we're going to get your closing remarks on this.
If you elect Monester Lee-Kinsler, I'll make sure we get the things done that we have been saying we're going to do for all these years before I was born, before I'm 49, and we still fighting the same battles in the 60s, 70s, and the 80s. The city I'm in, District 3, it still looked the same. Hialeah and Dorel, we wonder how they got happened. They were number swamps. So you need people who go impact and enforce and reinforce what they said we're going to do, rather than keep using our community to get whatever's beneficial for everybody else around. Please press 334 so we can raise the quality of our lives of our people and our seniors and our youth. Thank you.
Monester, thank you. Thank you so much. And now let's hear from Tisa McGhee. Let's get your thoughts and your closing remarks. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Joanne. And thank you again to the Miami Foundation for having us and having me to share the ability to share my insights on some of the platforms and the issues that are important to our community. So I think it's my track record of community service, my academic and professional background. I really believe that that is what makes me uniquely qualified to do this job. You can go to my website, tisamcghee.com, to see the entire list of those things. I think that they're going to be valuable assets in moving the county forward. If you think about having 6 new county commissioners, the importance of that is that you're going to need someone who's a coalition builder, someone who can work with multiple stakeholders, someone who is bringing this idea and concept of accountability and accessibility, collective action of all the community members, and engaging community in participating in their county government. And finally, creating transformational change where they can actually see the difference from when we are, start this process and journey together. So I want to earn the voters' vote. I know that the Honorable Audrey Edmondson has endorsed our campaign, and that is an important factor for a lot of people. I'm honored by that and humbled by it. And I definitely want people to know that I'm going to be the voice for all of District 3. I'm not just going to represent 1 or 2 communities, but I'm going to represent everyone in District 3. So vote 336, Tisa McGhee. Thank you.
Tisa McGhee, thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, let's hear from Mr. Brian Dennis and your closing remarks. Mr. Dennis. Okay, Mr. Dennis, I want to make sure that we are fair to you, Mr. Dennis. We cannot hear you right now. It's breaking up a little bit, but I want to make sure that we hear your closing remarks. I think it's only fair since we're hearing from everyone else. So let's make sure your audio is good. I don't hear you. It's just kind of breaking up. I don't hear you, Mr. Dennis. Let's try you again. We're going to try you again, Mr. Dennis. Go ahead. Kind of breaking up, Mr. Dennis. I don't know, maybe a lot of people around you are getting on the internet or something at this time because it's 6:24. All right, so Mr. Dennis, we're going to come back to you. We're going to try and fix that, and we're going to go ahead and move on to Gepsie Metellus, and let's hear from you and your closing remarks once again. And please don't scold me for cutting you off a couple times because of time.
I'll try not to. So I want to thank the Miami Foundation for this wonderful opportunity. I thank you as well, Joanne, for moderating our session this evening. I want to thank those who are viewing and participating. I will just tell you that I offer myself in service after decades, 4 decades in particular, of community service, community engagement, building up communities, and having relationships across the district, relationships that span the ethnic, the cultural, and the linguistic groups in this district. I'm ready for this job, ready for this role. It is an opportunity to serve at a level where I'm using my skills, my experience, my talents, my passion for people, my passion for community, and service of community. I want to be the conscience of this commission. I want to see us do right by the community. I want to see us address the challenges, the disparities that have lasted for too long and that have not been addressed. And so this is our opportunity. This is our moment. I think emerging from COVID offers us an opportunity to look to the kind of leadership we want to have. And that's leadership that's envisioned, empowered, that enlightened, and that cares about people. And that leader is none other than me. I thank you for your vote.
Gepsie Metellus, thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to try and get back to Brian Dennis once again before we hear from Keon Hardemon. Mr. Dennis, have we been able to fix your shot?
Can you hear me, Mr. Strader?
I can hear you. You're frozen on the video, but if I can hear you, I think all right now, what's most important is that we hear you, because probably the most important aspect to a forum is your opening and closing remarks, as well as talking about the issues. So let's hear from you, because right now you're frozen, but let's hear from you.
Proverbs 29:18 says that where there's no vision, the people perish. Not since the days of Arthur Till, Barbara Carey, and Miller Dawkins have District 3 seen strong leadership. When we look at the district, it still looks like May 18, 1980. And those are the days of Arthur McDuffie riot. When we look at the leadership of District 3, and we look at the crime and the economic development of District 3, it has been little to none. When we're talking about moving forward and taking our people to the next level, that has not happened. I am the best candidate for District 3. I have been here my entire life, seen it in its heyday, seen the graciousness of what our people can be, and seeing what it has to become now. So I'm asking you, as early voting starts on Monday, August the 3rd, all the way up until August the 18th, that I'm asking you to punch 332. Don't pick your poison, because I'm the cure.
I heard that. I heard that. Brian Dennis, thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for working on that audio. And last but not least, let's hear from Miami City Commissioner, who's now running for County Commissioner, Keon Hardemon. Keon.
it's important that you understand the type of leadership that I've been able to provide in the city of Miami. I've been the vice chairman for 2 years in the city and the chairman of the Miami City Commission for 4 years. So I've been chairing a majority Cuban organization for a very long time, and I have an amazing rapport with all of them. So I am the coalition builder. I was able to bring in tremendous resources for my district in the city of Miami, and I will do the same thing for my district in Miami-Dade County. In fact, most of my districts exist in District 3 in the county. And so many of our voters are familiar with the level of service that I've been able to provide them successfully. And so it's because of that service that organizations like the South Florida AFL-CIO, Unite Here, Local 355, the Miami Realtors, Police Benevolent Association, LIUNA, the Electrical Brotherhood of the International the Electrical Unions, the Operating Engineers, ASME, Transport Workers, AFL-CIO, and firefighters have all endorsed my candidacy. And you see your neighbors with signs in their yards. And I ask that you join them in also endorsing my candidacy. And I warn you about this. Don't allow people who come from outside of our community to come into our community and start using dog whistling and code language. When people say they represent 1 or 2 neighborhoods, that's code language. We've had the McDuffie riots and civil disturbances of the past. We don't need any white versus black community issues within our neighborhoods. And so what you need is someone who will bring all of our neighborhoods together. And that means giving all of our neighborhoods equal opportunity for success and to do better in District 3 and in Miami-Dade County. Thank you. So I ask for your support by voting 333 for Keon Hardemon.
All right. Thank you so much. And again, I want to thank all of our panelists. I want to thank all of you out there for tuning in for this all-important conversation. Our Miami, the People's Forum, so you can hear more from our candidates. Again, I want to thank the Miami Foundation. And I also want to thank all of our panelists here, Monester. I want to thank you, Lee-Kinsler. Tisa, see, Tisa, I had just asked before the beginning if it was Tisa or Tisa, and sure enough, they said Tisa, not Tisa. So I apologize, Tisa. Tisa McGhee, thank you so much. Gepsie Metellus, thank you, and as well as Mr. Brian Dennis. I know we were having some issues with your shop, but at least we got that audio up and running. And again, Miami City Commissioner Keon Hardemon, I want to thank all of you guys because no matter what happens at the end of it, all of you are leaders in our community. And I want to encourage all of you out there, if you want to watch this, you could go to NBC6.com to watch more on this very engaging forum. And I want to encourage you all out there to be sure to watch NBC6 Monday through Friday, 5, 6, and 11 o'clock p.m. and Voices with Juwan Strader as we talk about a number of these issues impacting our community. Thank you so much.